Power is quiet. And the moment you stop reacting, you take that power back. Imagine sitting in a meeting where someone makes a cutting remark meant to unsettle you. Instead of flinching, instead of giving them control over your emotions, you breathe, you pose, and you choose how to respond. In that instant, you shift the energy of the entire room. This is the power of not reacting. Most people don't realize how much of their life they hand over to their emotions. A single text message can ruin an entire day. A single argument can throw off an entire week. One impulsive reaction can damage a relationship, a reputation, even a future. But when you learn to control your emotions, to pause instead of explode, to respond instead of react, you become unshakable. You move from being controlled by life to controlling the way you experience it. Controlling your emotions does not mean suppressing them or pretending they don't exist. Emotions are signals. They carry valuable information about your needs, your desires, and your fears. But signals are not commands. They are messages to interpret, not orders to obey. The true power lies in creating space between what happens to you and what you decide to do next. That space is where freedom lives. In this journey, you will learn practical strategies rooted in emotional intelligence, mindfulness, and mental toughness. You'll discover how to identify your emotional triggers, how to use your breath to reset your nervous system, how to reframe your thoughts, how to set boundaries without guilt, and how to transform anger, fear, and stress into clarity and strength. Each lesson builds the skill of self-control, the skill that Napoleon Hill himself considered the foundation of success. So as we begin to hold on to this truth, you are not your emotions. You are the one who directs them. The moment you stop reacting, you reclaim control of your focus, your energy, and your destiny. Every human being has faced a moment when emotions threaten to take control. Someone cuts you off in traffic. A colleague dismisses your idea with a careless laugh. A loved one says something sharp in the heat of frustration. In those moments, you feel the surge in your body, the quickening heartbeat, the tightening in your chest, the fire rising in your face. Without thinking, you lash out, or you withdraw, or you say something you later regret. This is reacting, and it happens when emotion takes the driver's seat. But there is another path, and it begins with awareness. Reacting is automatic, a survival reflex that evolved to protect us, yet what once kept us alive can now sabotage our peace, our relationships, and our goals. Responding, on the other hand, is deliberate. It requires a pause, even just a few seconds, to let the rational mind step forward. The difference between reacting and responding is the difference between living as a slave to circumstance and living as the master of your destiny. Think about this. The greatest leaders in history were not those who never felt emotion, but those who learned to control it. They still felt anger, disappointment, even fear, but instead of letting those feelings dictate their actions, they chose to pause, breathe, and then act with intention. This is emotional intelligence at its core, the ability to feel deeply, but not be ruled by the feeling. When you react, you surrender power. You allow the outside world to dictate your inner state. A stranger can ruin your day with a single word. A setback can destroy your confidence for weeks. But when you learn to respond, you reclaim control. You become the one who decides how to think, how to feel, and how to act, no matter the circumstances. This power does not come from ignoring your emotions, but from mastering them. The first step toward mastery is recognizing the gap, the small window of choice between stimulus and response. It is almost invisible at first, because most of us have been conditioned to collapse that gap into instant reaction. Yet if you slow down, if you pay attention, you will notice it. Something happens, you feel the trigger, a space opens. In that space lies your freedom. If you can lengthen the gap, even by 2 or 3 seconds, you create enough room to choose. Do I want to snap back in anger? Do I want to retreat into silence? Or do I want to speak with clarity and calm? That gap is your moment of power. This shift is not easy at first. Your body is wired for speed. Adrenaline pushes you to act without thinking, but like any muscle, the ability to pause can be trained. The more you practice noticing your triggers, the stronger the pause becomes. Eventually, you will find yourself standing in the same situation that once sent you spiraling. Only this time you breathe, you wait, and you respond differently. That is when you know the work is paying off. Let's take an example. Imagine you are in a heated conversation with a coworker who questions your competence. The old version of you reacts immediately. You raise your voice. You defend yourself aggressively, and the situation escalates. The new version of you feels the same rush of energy, but instead of exploding, you notice your body. You recognize the tension in your jaw, the heat in your cheeks. You inhale deeply, exhale slowly, and give yourself 3 silent seconds. Then you respond, not to defend your ego, but to move the conversation toward resolution. You might say, I hear your concern. Let's look at the facts together. The energy shifts instantly. You remain in control, and the other person follows your lead. This is not weakness. It is strength. Anyone can shout, but it takes true power to remain calm in the storm. Silence, patience, and composure are not signs of passivity. They are signals of mastery. When you respond with clarity, instead of reacting with chaos, you set the tone. You show others that you cannot be easily manipulated, and you show yourself that you are in charge of your destiny.